Again, as Roger said, my name is Ethan. I am a partner for Instruments of Freedom. We are a self-defense education and training facility located in Worcester, Ohio. We've been in business since 2017, but I've been involved in the industry for a little bit longer than that, just due to my own personal passions, if you will. Wayne County resident, born and raised, so Ohio has been my whole life. So obviously I feel a strong sense of community because I grew up in Wayne County. I was raised in Wayne County. Before I got involved in the firearm business, I was actually involved in a family business. Had I stuck around, I'd have been the 4th generation. So that also taught me a sense of dedication to the people around me, my family, the things that we believe in, standing by people and taking care of them the best that we can. So obviously, I think the constitutional carry has been a big question mark above a lot of people's heads this evening. So I don't really have a speech prepared, not really one of those kinds of people, so I just want to throw out a few points about the constitutional carry, and then I kind of want to open this up to you guys. I want you to ask me the questions that have been kind of floating around in your head, because that's how I can best address this situation. So, obviously, yes, we do have the constitutional carry law that's been passed, which has now deemed it optional for us to require the actual concealed handgun license in the state of Ohio to be able to carry a concealed weapon on our person. And when I say weapon, I'm generally referring to a handgun, so just bear with me here, people, all right? So there's a few key points to this. One of them is that the inside of your vehicle is not covered in the midst of all this. So in the event that I am carrying my weapon concealed and I decide I'm going to get in my vehicle and drive to town to go do X, Y, or Z, before I enter my vehicle, I have to render my firearm unloaded and safe, and I have to separate the ammunition and the firearm, so that way I have to exit the vehicle to access one or the other.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so that's what the law requires me to do, and I lawfully transport a firearm anyway. So if I do not have a concealed handgun license, I cannot carry in my vehicle. All right, that's a big misconception that people are having with this constitutional carry, and we're going to see a lot of people get in some trouble here very shortly because of all this. So that's a big reason for me encouraging or trying to get people to pursue actually getting their concealed handgun license. All right. That also includes my ability to carry my firearm out of state. Right. So I'm sure we've all been on vacation at one point in our lives, right? If you're not broke like me, then yeah, sure. Right? So if I go out of state, obviously I'm going to an unfamiliar location. I'm going to somewhere where I automatically have disadvantage. I'm not familiar with the area. I don't generally know people who would be in that area, right? So in my opinion, that is where I would almost be more inclined to be carrying my firearm. Would you guys agree with me?
Yep.
Yeah. Just kind of off the beaten path.
Yeah.
That's where that comes into play. If I don't have that license, I can't carry outside the state of Ohio. My constitutional ability to carry in the state of Ohio ends at the state of Ohio boundary. So, those are the two biggest points when it comes to us having the constitutional carry, if you will. So, again, those are the biggest talking points that I think people ask me about. So do you guys have any questions regarding those two things specifically? Or has anybody considered this idea or why they would choose not to get their license, I guess? Anybody? Not everybody at once. Yes, sir.
You have to put the ammunition in the trunk.
So, it's not necessarily that you have to put the ammunition in the trunk. Again, the way the law is written, I have to exit the vehicle to access one or the other. All right. So generally, what I encourage people to do is, if they have to separate their firearm and ammunition, I generally like to keep the ammunition within the cab or maybe on the passenger seat, and then I would put the firearm in the back seat if I can't reach that, or in the trunk area. Now, again, I'm sure some of us drive pickup trucks here. So I'm not just going to throw a gun case in the bed of my truck and be rolling down the road or parking in a parking lot somewhere, right? So I don't necessarily have to put it in a specific location. It just has to be inaccessible to the individual while they're operating that machine. Does that make sense?
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Questions about the constitutional carry? Comments, concerns, complaints, questions, bitches, moans?
Constitutional carry. I've been hearing this, that, and the other about not being required to immediately announce to the law enforcement officer if you get pulled over.
Yes, sir. So that's what in Ohio is referred to as our duty to inform, meaning that I am lawfully required to inform an officer of the law during an official interaction that I am licensed and armed at the time. Now, or I guess I shouldn't say if, because constitutional carry is passed, once we meet, I think it's June 13th is the date. From June 13th and beyond, we are no longer lawfully required to inform an officer that we are licensed and or carrying. The biggest reason for that is because the way that they've changed the system for law enforcement, there is now a physical alarm that goes off on the officer's computer when he pulls you over, says you have a concealed handgun license. It will tell him that on his computer, and before that beeper shuts off, he has to physically acknowledge that by pushing a button on the computer saying, I acknowledge that. So that has kind of taken away our lawful duty to inform. But personally, I teach all of my students that they should still always inform the officer. It builds trust between me and the individual that I am being approached by. Now, I do think that there are going to be individuals who will disagree with me with that statement, but I will never put myself in a position where I am standing against an individual who has another firearm and a badge and not inform him that I am armed and could possibly be a threat to his life, right? So, again, that part of it's just my opinion, but the law side of it says we are no longer lawfully required to do so.
What was the reasoning behind that?
Because of the physical acknowledgement from the officer, due to their computer system, the way that they've changed that, that's what's... Because now,
they don't have that anymore, or what?
What's that? No, they now have that. That's why I'm not required to inform them. Because, so say I get pulled over, right? I'm driving down the road, I get pulled over, they run my tag on my car.
Okay.
It's going to tell them this individual is a licensed concealed handgun license holder. Beep, 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 beep. He's got to hit a button that says, okay, I accept, for that beeper to shut off on his computer. And not only that, but when he runs my plate over dispatch or over the radio, dispatch will inform that officer this individual is a valid CHL holder. So that's why they've...
they will assume then that you're carrying, but not necessarily.
Yes, they're going to assume that. So I guess I should back up a tad. At the academy level, every officer is taught that there is a weapon in the vehicle they are approaching. They're just not aware of it at the time. So, by me informing the officer that I am armed, that reduces the imagination in his mind that this guy could be hiding a weapon from me. Mm-hmm. So, yes, are we lawfully required to? No. But again, that's why I encourage it. Just for that simple fact that, if all I did was get pulled over because I was speeding, then I have no problem telling the guy, yeah, hey man, I was speeding, sorry. That's part of being an adult, is accepting punishment for the things that we do wrong. If I'm speeding, I'm speeding. He pulls me over, says, hey man, you were speeding. I said, all right, cool. That's that. I don't need to debate with him about my constitutional rights for my firearm. He's there to give me a speeding ticket or a seatbelt ticket, or he didn't like my face. I don't know, But which I've been told that before. No, but the idea is just simply that I am creating that bond of trust between the officer, and I'm allowing myself to show him that I'm willing to be submissive and listening to his commands.
Does it work?
Say he escalates this, he wants to pull me out of the vehicle. I've already told him I'm armed. I already told him I'm licensed. He knows I'm not a felon. He knows I'm not some kind of drug criminal. He knows I'm not some kind of violent criminal. I'm just a guy who just happens to be speeding because I was running late for work that day. Right? So instead of him debating this or pulling me out of the vehicle, in my opinion, by me just simply telling the officer, hey, I'm armed, I'm licensed, blah, 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 he's more likely to just be like, I'll slow down, man. Right? So part of my background, and I generally don't brag about this, but part part of my earlier life, I lived on the opposite side of that spectrum. All right. So my idea of the enemy was law enforcement.
Right.
Those were the people I tried to avoid. I was adamant about that. I was very well versed in some of the laws regarding their ability to do certain things because I know my rights. You're not going to do this to me, right? My life had some hectic and ultimately productive experiences that led me to getting my concealed handgun license, becoming an instructor, and start working with law enforcement and military members and training them in the things that obviously we're talking about this evening. That led me to a whole new respect for law enforcement. And I've also noticed a shift in the way that I am treated by law enforcement based on the way that I interact with them, right? So by me showing them that I'm just an average citizen who is exercising his rights, like I said, I got pulled over. Yeah, I was speeding. All right, if I got to get a ticket for that, well, that's just what it is. But ultimately, I'm trying to create. I'm just breaking the ice, right? By me telling him, "Hey, man, I'm licensed. I'm armed," and he knows that, his pucker factor goes down, right? And that's what we want.
Yeah.
We want his pucker factor to go down. So
Good word.
ultimately, that's kind of my idea behind it.
So you still can't carry in a vehicle
Correct.
without the license?
Yes, sir.
I do have my license, but I just, like some people when I carry and stuff, I have friends and I put on classes and stuff.
Sure.
And so I've been hearing, it's like constitutional carry. That means you can carry anywhere.
Absolutely. And that was my assumption too, because the way the law is kind of set up in Ohio, by me entering a vehicle with a weapon, whether it's open or concealed, it does not matter. By me entering a vehicle, I am automatically by law concealing that weapon. So in my mind, when they said constitutional carry, you'd think that would be a part of it.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's not. So what's going to happen is people are going to be carrying out on their person, and then they're going to go ahead and get in their vehicle and get pulled over for whatever reason.
So
Why call it constitutional carry?
What's the difference between what was and what will be? Because, like, the concealed is still...
Again, having that little plastic card that says you're licensed to do so gives you the ability to carry across the board. And in the state of Ohio, and let me rephrase that, it allows you to carry anywhere in the state of Ohio as long as you're lawfully permitted to do so. And it allows you to carry in any state that has reciprocity with the state of Ohio.
Yeah, that's what the card does, but what does constitutional carry give us that we didn't have before? Yeah.
The ability to
Yeah.
carry.
Yeah, like,
I would say, I don't know, I haven't read the law, but is it the ability to carry concealed when you're out in public,
without a license.
just walking without a
Yeah,
license?
essentially, yes. That's all it does is give you the right to do it without the license.
Okay, but the card doesn't count.
What's that?
Does the card
The
count?
car's the only place that
No,
does
that's
it.
what I'm saying. It's
Okay.
kind of redundant. I mean, they
That's
basically
like
done
getting
nothing.
halfway past there.
Mr. Roger.
One of the important things of why to get a license is all that training and safety.
Absolutely. So,
And that's, I'd like you
Yeah.
to speak to that.
okay. So, the reason why I'm adamant about people getting their license is because that requires education. It requires training, right? In my mind, when I put a firearm on my body and I decide that I'm going to step out of my home, I am inadvertently putting other people's lives at risk. Would you guys agree with me on that? Because I could potentially affect their life if I pull this weapon out and use it, say right now, right? Roger, how good of a shot are you? You think you can get somebody between me and this door?
I know you can.
But the point I'm making is that by me doing so, I'm impacting the lives of everybody I come in contact with, right? It's ultimately my responsibility to be an asset to the public and not a liability, and that is through education and training, right? What I'm gambling with when I decide that I'm going to put a weapon on my person is obviously my life, right? What if it's even deeper than that? What if it's not my life? What if it's the life of a significant other? What if it's a family member or a friend, somebody who I am close to, right? Because it can be more than just you, right? It can be more than just me. My ability to perform in this type of environment requires me to be able to do so when somebody else's life is on the line, not just mine. You know, if trading my life meant the betterment of society and the betterment of those around me, I'm pretty sure that most of us would make that choice every day, right? Would you guys agree with me on that?
Yes.
What if it's not your life that you're gambling with? Would you bet your significant other's life on that? Crickets, right? Because again, those are the things that we're gambling with. So, to my point, having that education and that training it's a no-brainer. It's an absolute must. So, for example, one thing that I like to ask people in the midst of, I shouldn't say debating, but conversing these types of things, I will ask people, does anyone here, and if you know it, shout it out, anyone here know the, Roger, you be quiet, actually. I know you know that, so you be quiet. Can anybody here name me the 4 key elements that authorize the use of deadly force?
Meet force with force is one of them.
Nope.
No.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Nope.
Endangered.
Okay, well, how do we determine that, though? That's what I'm asking. How do we determine lawfully on black and white that our life was in danger? Because that's what we have to do when we make a claim of self-defense. If I stand in front of a courtroom and I say, I am claiming that I acted in self-defense, the burden now falls on me to prove that, right? So, say I was engaged in some kind of a gunfight, I defend my life, they're obviously going to arrest me, right? If I walk in, the situation happens, and the cops show up, oh, Mr. Franz, I see you had a long night. We'll clean this up, we'll call you in the morning. That doesn't quite sound right, does it? They're going to say, hey, look, we've got this nice set of shiny bracelets, and they're just your size, buddy. Right? So they're going to arrest me, and they're going to charge me with some kind of crime. Assault with a deadly weapon, murder, attempted murder, some kind of crime along those lines, because that's what I've done to defend my life. Now, I may not be convicted guilty of murder, but that doesn't mean I haven't taken a life, potentially, right? It just means that I did it in self-defense. There's a difference between murder and killing and self-defense. Each 3 has its own category, right? So when I tell a courtroom, whether it's judge or jury, and I stand in the courtroom and say, no, I acted in self-defense, the court now says to me, okay, well, if that's the case, it is now your proof of burden to prove that you did so, right? So now I have to prove to the court that I did so lawfully. And yes, I understand that the idea is if we're in fear for our life, we defend our lives. But how do I prove that? How do I show the courtroom lawfully that my life really was in danger? I mean, I can't say he was bigger than me, right? Because there's a lot of people bigger than me. Okay? So it falls along that line. How do I prove that? How do I prove that my life was in danger? So, spoiler alert, I'll tell them to you. All right? The 4 key elements that authorize the use of deadly force are intent, ability, opportunity, and jeopardy. This is what I have to prove. I have to prove that my attacker had the intent to cause me serious bodily harm or death. I had to prove that they had the ability to cause me serious bodily harm or death. I had to prove that they had the opportunity to cause me serious bodily harm or death. And I also had to prove that my life was in jeopardy of serious bodily harm or death. Those are the 4 key elements that authorize us to use deadly force. So, I can't just say I was in fear for my life. They're going to say, okay, you were in fear for your life. What led you to believe that? Oh, wow. Didn't think about that. Right? So for clarification purposes, intent can be things like verbal cues and physical body language. Right? Say you stand up out of your chair and you pick that thing up over your head and you come moving at me, you're probably not going to give me a hug. Right? So, does that individual have the intent to cause me serious bodily harm or death? Well, yeah, because his body language is showing me that. Now, has he acted on that? Well, that's yet to be determined, right? And then we get into things like ability. Does this individual have the physical ability to cause me serious bodily harm or death? Well, if they're an able-bodied human being with access to a weapon, possibly, or a weapon of opportunity, then yeah, they would very clearly have that opportunity. You guys agree with me there? And then the following point, again, is opportunity. What I mean by that is the physical opportunity. So, say that I got a chain link fence on one side, and some guy comes running up to the chain link fence with a knife in his hand. He says, "Give me your wallet or I'm going to stab you." Like, I can't just stick the muzzle of my gun through the chain link fence and give this guy a couple extra vent holes. Like, I can't do that, right? Does that individual have the physical opportunity to cause me that serious bodily harm or death? Well, physically at this time, no, because I mean, you can't get me through a chain link fence, right? But say he walks around the chain link fence, 10 feet down the sidewalk, there's a break in that chain link fence, and now he's on my side of the sidewalk. Right now, he does have the opportunity, right? So again, it's not that I can just say I was in fear for my life, because I fear for my life all the time.
From our government.
All kinds of stuff, right? So again, with that being said, it's not just me saying that or believing it. I have to be able to prove those things. And that's where the education side comes in, right? Most people who are deciding that they're just going to start carrying a gun, right, they don't know those things, right? Anybody here familiar with the Dragway 42 shooting that happened last summer? There was a shooting at Dragway 42 where, I don't know all the details, but an individual...
Wayne County?
What's that?
Is that Wayne County?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
the Wayne County Speedway.
West Salem, Dragway 42 there, the drag strip there in West Salem. I think it's West Salem, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where.
So there was a shooting there, and there was an individual who and again, please bear with me, I'm not 100% sure about the details. An individual either fired a weapon into the crowd or into the air. A weapon was fired, right? An individual who was there, who was our concealed carrier, pulled his weapon and started to shoot back at this guy, and ultimately injured more people in the crowd than he hurt more people than the bad guy did. Right? So who's the real threat here? Okay? Because I also have to consider, what if I'm the good guy moving through a crowd of people or any kind of given situation, and I've got a gun in my hand because obviously shots are being fired, and then somebody else sees me. What are they going to think? Oh, there's two of them now, right? And now our concealed carry hero guy over here is going to think that our crazy gunman way back in the corner of the store has got a buddy who's trying to help him out, right? Obviously, we don't want that. I want to be able to communicate with people. I want people who are carrying these weapons to be educated on it. Because again, what if my life is the one that's affected by the fact that you're carrying a weapon without a license, or without education, rather? Again, I understand our rights. I truly do. And I believe in them wholeheartedly. But I also believe in the fact that we should be educated, especially because of the impact, the dynamic of the impact we are making on other people's lives. So, I try to keep it to myself generally. I wouldn't say I'm a fan of constitutional carry, right? I'm just going to say it. Yes, sir, in the back.
You still have to be careful. I want to go back to your reference to the fence.
Sure.
He's on this side, you're on this side.
Okay.
If you're in your house, just castle doctrine. Many things have a castle doctrine.
Absolutely.
But if you're in your house and you have the ability to escape, what do you do?
So, that's what the castle doctrine does for us. It shows us that we are not required to retreat from our own home. That's why it's called the castle doctrine.
But I've heard and I've read about several cases that went to trial, okay, and because they had the ability to get out of there, it just, I mean, it went on and on and on. And you don't have somebody backing you up in that instance, you know, like an insurance
Sure.
or something. You're going to be in the world of hurt.
Absolutely. Not only legally, financially, emotionally. I can't imagine the toll that would take on somebody if they had that situation. So I do work with a group called U.S. Law Shield, and I recommend them to every single student I have. And I've been through the ringer with these insurance companies. I've checked out all of them. I've cross-referenced all of them. I've called their representatives. I've talked to all of them. U.S. Law Shield, in my opinion, is the best option for concealed carriers in the market today. The reason why I say that is because they're the only tried and true insurance company who is offering what they offer. Companies like the NRA, they have one called Carry Guard, I think, or Carry Safe, or something like that, CCW Safe, whatever it may be. There's one called Gun Owners Legal Defense Network. We refer to it as Golden, G-O-L-D-N. USCCA has one. I just saw a gun manufacturing company, Palmetto State Armory, just created their own called Right to Bear Insurance. So you're seeing them pop up, but U.S. Law Shield is the only tried and true insurance company. And it costs you less than what you pay in Netflix every month. Not only does it cost you the least amount, but they also offer you the most legal representation at no financial cap, meaning they'll spend anywhere from $100,000 up to $10 million if that's what it requires for them to represent you. I've seen, so for example, USCCA is one of them. They have 2 lawsuits against them right now from members of their program because of failure to represent them in legal settings. U.S. Law Shield does not have that. As far back as I've looked, they've never had an individual go back and attempt to sue them for lack of representation. So let me ask you this. When was the last time you guys went to the store and bought a 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner? Right? Probably wasn't that great. Would you guys agree with me?
Yeah.
I was coming down.
I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, sorry, bro. But the point I'm making is the reason why it wasn't so great is because of the fact that it was designed to do 2 things instead of just simply the one thing that it should be doing, right? I carry my gun to protect myself physically. I carry U.S. Law Shield to protect myself mentally. So, as far as that goes, so I highly encourage it. Now, that doesn't exactly answer your question, but again, in the state of Ohio, I have never seen it to where they would tell you you need to retreat from your own home. And if a attorney attempted, or I guess I should say a prosecuting attorney attempted to push that road, I would just simply recite to them the Castle Doctrine. It says verbatim, I am not required to retreat from my home or vehicle if I am within them. Right? So, right there, black and white, it says it.
See, now that's interesting. Now, you just said that.
Sure.
Okay, understand what you're saying. However, with constitutional carry, you got stuff separated in the car. Are you still protected in your car?
No, you're not. That's why I encourage the license.
Not if you're in that situation.
What do you
Let's say you,
Doesn't know.
you're driving.
Sure.
You pull up to the mall. You get
I
out of
don't
the
think she
mall.
knows how good it is.
Okay,
Sure.
I get out of my car.
Sure.
And you're saying, I got the ammo in my pocket.
Okay.
And all of a sudden I see 6
Like all
guys.
new people here.
And I know, I'm looking at them, they're coming for me. I can see that, right?
Okay.
What do you do? They're trying to get back into my car and then you get fucked and all this. What do you do? Do I still have that ability under constitutional carry to defend myself in that car? Now I got back in, I got my revolver.
I can't answer that question specifically. And the reason why I say that is because that would come down to the interpretation of the law. There's too many situational variables. What I mean by that is, if you enter your vehicle with your unloaded weapon, do you have the ability to put your car, put the key in, start it, put it in drive and go?
Yeah, but not if they're, they're surrounded.
Why not?
I said, like,
You're in
6 around.
the driver's seat of a 2,000-pound weapon, run them over. I have every right to do that. If I have every right to use my gun, I have every right to run them over with my car.
What if you drop your keys?
Well, then if I'm immobilized,
If you're I'm sure you're going to be a little bit rattled.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, if I drop my keys and I am within my vehicle and considered immobilized, then
Break
yes,
them off,
the
trying to get
gentleman's
them in
point
condition.
would be valid. Yes, I'd have every right to defend myself. But again,
Break the key. Break the key.
so again, there's too many situational variables. I would tell you that if you have every physical ability to start the car and drive it, then do it. I mean, cars don't run out of ammo, so I can run over a bunch of people before I gotta stop. That's why I drive a pickup truck, four-wheel drive. Yes, sir.
There's two situations that happened. I used to work in the prosecutor's office.
Sure.
In December. And last year, the year before in Canton, on the BP station, when you get off on 77, on Test, there was a shooting there.
Yes.
And I was following that. A guy got out. I don't know, it was a car thing. These two guys, they went to the gas station, and one guy pulled out his gun. And the other guy took the gun. They ended up shooting and killing the guy.
Sure.
And he didn't. It went to the grand jury. He didn't get charged.
Yeah, because he had, when the first individual pulled the weapon on him, I guess I'll say guy A and guy B. When guy A pulled the weapon, guy B had every legal right to defend himself with deadly force. Now it's just guy A's fault that he let guy B get the gun.
Right. So, and then here recently, I think it was doing light up downtown. There was some ruckus going on. A lady shot her gun. And I don't know if Brenda was shoot at somebody or just up in the air. Well, she got 3 years in prison, just got sentenced last month. So what I wanted to, my point was, is that whenever you pull your gun, it's like when they tell an officer, whenever you take your gun out of your holster, right there, number one, that's a check mark on your record. We want to know why you pulled your gun out.
Absolutely. And
so I think as citizens, we need to take it serious. And when I pull my gun up, you know, it's responsibility on my end too. Why am I going to pull my gun up? That's all I wanted to say.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The U.S. law should cover you if you're not concealed carry permit.
Yes, sir. Yeah, if you sign their paperwork, you are considered covered by them the moment your pen strokes that paper.
There was an old manager that recommended
I wouldn't hurt to have that. It's a crazy time. It wouldn't be cost much either.
Okay.
And when you're approached, you pull that out. And is that person approaching you going to go after you or the money that's flying around this parking lot?
That would depend on what the individual was after. Because so here's the thing, and I hear them very often, and I refer to them as what I call gun store idioms. What I mean by that is terrible advice I hear in random gun stores all the time. So, excuse me, I'm sure you've heard this. Somebody breaks into your house, and they're going to turn around and run away. You guys heard that before? Anybody ever heard that statement?
Yep.
Okay, I pose to you, no, you would run away. But you're not going around breaking in people's houses though either, are you? You guys see where I'm going with this? This individual who hears the in the middle of the night, they're not of sound mind. They've obviously broken the threshold of your privacy to break into your home. You think they care about They don't care about that. If I was the bad guy and I broke in your home and I heard you just told me two things. One, where you're at, and two, that you're armed. So guess what I'm going to do? Bang, 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 bang. I'm just start shooting through the walls because I'm the bad guy. I don't care. I'm not here to care about your feelings.
They would have planned to come when you were out if they were smart enough to act rational.
Yeah, but 100% of home invasions happen at home.
I know, but I'm saying a smart burglar who was of kind of sound mind.
No, I understand exactly. I was the victim of an home break-in,
yeah.
and guess what they did? They waited till I wasn't home.
Yeah.
But why do you think he did that?
Because he didn't want to get shot.
Because he knew there was going to be opposition,
Yeah.
right?
It's
So,
been an easy pick.
to my point, not every individual, even if they're a smart criminal, is not generally that smart. They're breaking the law. Like, so, I have a friend of mine. Her name is Pam. She's been a student of mine for a number of years. And we've even developed more of a friendship outside of the training. She'd come hang out with us. We had over for a seafood roll, whatever. She had an individual break into her home in Canton. She lives in downtown Canton, all right? The individual who broke into her home was extremely strung out on that. And this guy was very well known to local law enforcement for the past 5-10 years for being involved in that type of lifestyle. So for the next, I think it was like 27 minutes while this guy rummaged around her ground floor level of her home, and her husband, who actually misled to this passing as well. So her husband, who was armed at the top of the steps with an AR-15, was shouting commands at this guy, if you come up here, I will defend myself. If you come up here, I will defend myself. At a certain point, obviously the house is literally surrounded by officers. There's blinking lights. There's dozens of men outside with guns saying, if you don't come out, we're going to drag you out. Right? That guy did not care one iota for that. He didn't care. You know what he was screaming out the door? Shoot me, kill me, I want you to do this. Right? You know what got him to stop and actually calm down and leave the house? When the K-9 unit showed up. Bark, 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 bark. Because guess what? Can't reason with a dog.
That's good.
So, I understand your point. Yeah.
I know you had other obligations, and I don't want to cut you short.
No, you're fine.
But we've got, enough.
Yeah, I don't want to cut Bob's short either. So,
The point, I think, the most important point that I think we can gather from this is that training is essential. And not just, people buying and the feeling of they're okay with constitutional carry. There's so many different scenarios that are possibilities, and if you don't think through some of those, but just the fact of training that I just went through with Ethan was invaluable. I have a totally different, understanding now of firearms and the responsibility that goes with it. And I highly encourage anyone that you talk to that's even thinking about, in the crazy world that we're in, getting a gun, they think they're going to, be prepared. They're not. And I really highly encourage anyone to get, the training, whether you get your license or not, at least go through the training. That's good.
No, I appreciate it. I do want to extend again a grateful thank you to you folks for having me here this evening. I genuinely appreciate you letting me flap my gums up here for a few minutes. It's just as therapeutic for me to get it out. Stuff rolling around my brain up here. It's nice to let it out once in a while so I don't feel like my head's going to explode.
Yeah, one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Did Mike DeWine sign the constitutional carry for points against conservatives? In your opinion? I'm guessing you're not a DeWine fan?
Nobody will shoot.
I have no opinion.
Okay. There's the answer.
Again,
Thank you, man.
I want to thank you guys
Thank
sincerely
you.
from the bottom of my heart for hosting myself and my wife this evening. I genuinely appreciate it. And again, to caveat off what Roger said, I absolutely agree. Even if it's not with us, please pursue higher learning, pursue the education. Remember what the dynamic is of what you're trying to accomplish. And if there is anything that myself or my business or my partners can do for you, obviously we will do the best we can with what we got. And if I can't do that, or if it's not within my capabilities, I will either tell you that immediately, and I will recommend you to somebody who can get you squared away. All right? Yes, sir.
Can you share the name of your business with us?
The name of my business is Instruments of Freedom. And again, we're located right in Worcester. We got all the social medias, so you can check us out if you're on the interwebs. So we're right in downtown Worcester. If anybody's familiar with Worcester, we're right on the corner of Liberty and Bell Avenue. A lot of people refer to it as Hamburger Hill. So basically, if you know where either the brewery is in Worcester, you can find us pretty easy, or if you know where Napa is in Worcester. Pull into Napa's parking lot, go to the right, it's a big building with an eagle on it. You can't hardly miss it. Ain't that right, Roger?
Come on.
All right. If you miss it, trust me, you drove over the curb and over the sidewalk. So.
All right.
But again, thank you guys
We'll
very
come.
much.
Hey,
I
thanks,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. That was really good. You want water? Very informative. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off here. My arm is killing me right now. My right arm's been really hurting me. So we got the Bob Mallory. We're going to talk about ham radios.
Give Bob a hand.
Come on, Bob. Thank you, man. Woo.
Pass them down, please.
Let me get one.